Hello, everyone. It is the 15th of March, 2024, around noon, I think, something like that. Had to work the last 2.5 days, so I can finally get back to work on my toy here, my project car. The last few days, I've been able to do some research. Also had a conversation with Brian, my friend in Kentucky, about how to tune the carburetor. Also found a channel on YouTube called Muscle Car Solutions, I think it is. The guy there does an excellent job of talking about the same thing, how to tune these Carter AFB / Edelbrock carburetors. I didn't know there was so much involved with it. So I have a lot of confidence that I'll be able to figure this out. So I just wanted to show you where I'm headed with that. Um, Brian talked to me specifically about the metering rods that are underneath these little covers here, which is something you can do, obviously, without taking the carburetor apart, other than taking that little screw off. You can change the springs to either higher tension or lower tension, depending on what you need. And I don't remember right now which way I got to go, but that's something I can do. You can also change the metering rods themselves. I should be able to buy a tuning kit from Edelbrock, since this is a clone of the 1406 carburetor, so those parts should work on here. I say should, I hope they would. Um, and the other thing too that I read online is that I can get a different accelerator pump that has a stronger spring, which allows it to squirt more fluid, plus the little squirter thing, which is down here in the middle in the top there. You'd have to take the air horn off to get to it. Those come in different sizes too, with larger or smaller orifices to allow more or less fuel to come out. Pretty sure I have a starvation issue, so one thing I'm thinking I might try to make it real simple is to take those parts from my old Carter carburetor that was on the car and see if they'll fit in there and see if it runs any different or any better than that. Um, so I got to work on that a little bit and see how the car does. I'm working on getting my front end kits, my ball joints, tie rod ends, all that stuff. I should have the ball joints either today or tomorrow. I still don't have a shipment notification from PST, I forget the name of the company, PST something on eBay for the rest of the front end. So what I'm going to do in the meantime while I'm waiting is I'm just going to disassemble the front end completely. I'm just going to tear all that stuff out. That way when the parts get here, I won't have to, do that part. It'll already be done and I can start assembling right away. I'd like to get that done as soon as possible. I canceled my tire appointment until I have all that done. So I'll have the tires installed once I have the front end rebuilt. Hopefully the carburetor will be behaving better than it is now. And I'll have the front end alignment done too at the same time I have the tires replaced. So I've already got my new tires in the trunk on the car. So they're out of my living room now. And that's about it. So I'm going to play with the carburetor a little bit, see how we do with that. You're looking at the metering rods here. This one came out of the right side of the carburetor there. Just took off that little cap right there, little screw. They are very similar, but there are tiny differences, especially on the tips here, right here. This is the new one. That's a much skinnier tip than this one. I think the length is about the same. The springs are also very different. This goes with the new one, that goes with the old one. So what I'm going to try carefully is to see if I can insert my old metering rod in this new carburetor and see how it reacts, see if it runs any different, any better. I've got the new metering rods, or I shouldn't say new, they're from my old carburetor. They're now installed in this carburetor and the springs with them. So we'll see how the carburetor and the engine reacts now. One thing I learned about tuning a carburetor is that you have to make one change at a time, then test, especially test drive it. So I can tell, I'll be able to tell whether that hesitation is still there, even with the car just sitting here. That's how bad the hesitation was. You could actually see it right here under the hood. So I got the ignition on, I've got my remote starter set up, so we're gonna just see what happens here. Okay, hard to start for some reason, hang on. Okay, I've put the new metering rods back in their place, but left the springs in there for my other carburetor, so now we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna try to start it. Well, that didn't make any difference. She still doesn't want to start. Not a fuel starvation issue either. There's plenty of fuel getting in there. So I got to figure this out. Okay, so I'm an idiot. I forgot to turn the ignition back on after I put the other metering rods back in. So let's try this again. Pressure runs pretty good when you turn the ignition on. How about that? I'm going to let it warm up and then we'll see how she does with some acceleration. All right, folks. Apparently it was the metering rods that was the problem. So I put the old metering rods back in for my old carburetor, and it's doing a whole lot better. The hesitation is almost completely gone. Of course, now I got to sit here and wait, but I hope this won't be too long of a wait, so I can show you how she accelerates now. Much better. I think the timing is probably advanced a little bit too much right now. Definitely have some pinging going on. Man, how long is this line? Holy moly. I'm going, babies. Here we go. All right. It almost feels like she's starting out in second gear. So I'll have to look at that, see if there's any issue going on there. But anyway, the hesitation from the engine is gone, just like that. Just by changing the metering rods. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know if you saw that cop the other way, but hopefully he ain't gonna nail me for holding my phone here. Anyway, later. All right, this is progress report. The changing the metering rods and the springs in the carburetor, that's all it took. That got rid of the hesitation problem. So thank you, Brian, very much. That was the perfect solution. I didn't even have to buy a tune-up kit. All I had to do was steal those same parts from my old carburetor. They fit right in there. It worked beautifully. So I was amazed that such a simple change could affect how the car ran like that with the hesitation or the lack thereof now. So that was nice to have a simple repair. Um, and I took it for a drive several times. I've noticed that the transmission doesn't seem to want to start out in first gear when I have it in the drive mode, the drive selection on the column shaft. But if I put it all the way down into first gear, it does start in first gear. Of course, it has much better response in first gear, taking off from a dead stop. So I tested that a few times. It shifts fine from second to third, and it downshifts and everything. So I'm not really sure what's going on. I suspect at some point I'll probably just rebuild that transmission. I've done it a couple times. They're not hard, these C6 transmissions. So, but it drives, it runs even the way it is. I'm perfectly fine with it right now. So now I'm done fiddling with the carburetor and under the hood. So now I'm going to put this thing up on jacks, remove the front wheels, and start tearing apart the front end, getting ready for my new parts that will hopefully be here soon. All right, I'm jumping around a little bit here. There was an online coupon for one of the aftermarket Lincoln suppliers. I don't remember which company it was right now. I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, they're offering 20% off parts for the next few days only. So I think my steering column needs a upper bearing because it's really loose up here like that, as you can see it moving. So I'm going to remove the steering wheel. It needs to be realigned anyway to be straight across this way. One of my horn buttons isn't working, so maybe I can figure that out while I've got it off. But in all my years of working on these Lincolns, I never had a rattle gun like this. This was electric. For some reason, the proper term is escaping me right at the moment. But anyway, never had one before that I could use, so it's going to make taking that bolt off. Not to mention, I don't have the right size anyway in my socket set, so this is going to be easy to take that off. And I got my puller there, so I'll have that off in a minute. All right, that was pretty easy to get off. I've never seen such a dirty interior underneath the steering wheel before in one of these old Lincolns. Wow, it's filthy in there. I'm amazed. So I'm gonna see what I can do to wipe some of that out, vacuum some of it out, something before I'm obviously gonna have to move the switch cluster out of the way to even get a view at the bearing. And I don't even know if I can do that very easily without dropping the lower panel here and disconnecting the wire harness, all that stuff. Not to mention well, actually, yeah, I might have to, oh boy. This is a little more complicated than I remembered it being, so we'll see how far I get. That actually cleaned up pretty good just using a vacuum cleaner and a little toothbrush. Um, the only way to get this out, though, enough to look behind it is I've got to unscrew this, which I can't do because of the cruise control wiring. You guys know how precious this turn signal stock is because usually these are broken. This one's still intact even though it's pitted and looks pretty crappy. It's still in one piece, so I don't want to destroy it. So before I even begin to try and untwist this, I first have to disconnect the wiring underneath the dash here. Right there, I have to take the wiring out of this end. I just have to use a screwdriver, or not that one, this one. This is the one that goes in the column. I've got to get in there with an ice pick or something to bend those just enough to get them out of this plug. Then I can pull that whole little bit of wiring out through the steering column so it's out of the way, and then I can untwist this, and then I can get a better view behind here to see what's going on. I'm pretty sure the upper bearing is just shot. I'm assuming that's why this is just moving around like this. I got this apart enough that I could see the bearing now, the upper bearing. Looks like the bearing itself is fine. I think there's a collar that I've seen advertised that's supposed to go in there to hold that in place, and I guess the collar is just worn out. I don't know if it's just a press fit in there or how that works exactly, but I don't think I need the bearing. I think I just need that collar, and they are sold separately online, so I think I'm just going to get the collar. I'll have to get this out a little bit more, but that shouldn't be too hard to do, and then I can put that back together. So I'm going to order that, and I wanted to write down the name of the company that has this 20% online discount right now. I don't think it's unethical for me to give you the code. Hopefully it's not, because I'm gonna blurt it out. But the name of the company is the Lincoln Mercury Old Parts Store, and the code is March Used altogether, MARCHUSED. Supposedly you get 20% off of your order for the next couple days anyway. Oh, you're looking at my ball joints. They just came in via the U.S. mail. That came from Anderson Restorations. It was a reasonable price. I think I paid $200 for all four of these, upper and lower, I think. So that was on eBay, and I'm still waiting on the rest of it. But got plenty to do in the meantime. So I'm going to go place my order with the Lincoln Mercury Old Parts Store now that I see what I need to see, and I'll come back out here and work some more. I'm finally in process of disconnecting the front end components here. Got my wheels off. I got jack stands, two on each side, or the bumper jack on the other side with the jack stand. I've taken the cotter key out of the outer tie rod ends, and I sprayed them down with PB Blaster to make sure I can get these loose. So this should come impact gun. That's what I couldn't remember earlier. Impact wrench. I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but here we go. Oh, love it. Man, that came apart so easy. Just love these things. So now I'm just going to use my tuning fork to go in there and smack that, separate that. See how easy this is. I should have already had this set up, but I didn't. Let's see here. I'll probably have to edit this a little bit. Yeah, you don't need to be watching me struggle with that. All right, one good whack should break this loose if I hit it just right. We'll see how we do here. Probably will take more than one, but there we go. One down, one on the other side. The Pittman arm connection and the idler arm. Actually, all I need to do is unbolt the idler arm. I can leave most of the stuff attached to the center link because I'm replacing the center link. So everything that's attached to it directly, I can just leave attached. That'll cut down on my disassembly by a large margin. I'm getting new sleeves too, adjusting sleeves with the kit, so I can just kind of make them approximately the same adjustment that they're at right now to get that initial alignment until I can get it to a shop. So I'm just continuing on. The next disconnect point will be the Pittman arm right there. Then I'll switch to the other side. So this part only took about 10 or 15 minutes to get all this out. And then, of course, it would take a lot longer having to disconnect everything from the center link. Surprisingly, I was surprised. The only thing that's really loose in this whole assembly is right here on the center link. This part that connects to the Pittman arm on the steering is really the only part that's significantly loose. Not that I mind replacing all this because I think that's just a smart thing to do. Um, so now that that's disconnected, I can start working on getting the ball joints out of there. All right, we've got a little rain shower going here, so I'm just going to wrap it up for the day. I'm doing good. I already showed you I got the center link out, the tie rod ends, all that stuff's been removed. I started working on disconnecting the ball joints because then I realized I don't have to take them all off at one time. I can do one at a time. So I was going to start here. I cleaned all the grease and dirt off, which is kind of cool because it keeps it from rusting. So those should be pretty easy to get out. And I'm protecting the rotor and the brakes from getting all the crap on them. And I got a bungee cord here to hold this so the spindle doesn't fall out when I disconnect that. I don't want to ruin my brand new brake hose. So I'll pick up on this tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be nice, a little bit cooler, but no rain. So I'm just going to leave this where it's at for now. Thank you.